Welcome to the Celtic Huddle podcast. I'm Mark Wilson. Today I'm joined by Simon Donnelly and Frank McAvenny. Murdo McLeod, lads, isn't he with us today? He's got an appointment with a BT engineer sorting out his internet for Friday night. Since he's still sitting there frozen just now.
He didn't like live games anyway, so it's
We're a brand new podcast every week, and we'll take you behind the scenes and in depth and all things Celtic. And today, guys, we're live. I wonder why. There's no messing about today. And I'm delighted to say once again, the podcast is sponsored by First Star Legends Gin and First Class Transfers, Scotland's most luxurious chauffeur and travel service. And also a new one today, new sponsor, Social Recluse. So go to the First Star website and platforms to buy the gin for Frank McAvenny, Lubo Moravcik, Chris Sutton and Johan Mialbe. So, as you can guess today, absolute cracker again, and once again Neil Lennon topping the agenda. We'll have a full discussion about his position, as we have been doing in weeks gone by, but a wee bit more serious today. And the players who also must be shown the door next month in the transfer window. We have a live interview also with Scotty McDonald, all the way from Australia. You believe that? I wonder the weather's a wee bit better than it is here. And we'll get Martin O'Neill's take in the managerial situation. That's another big exclusive. We'll look ahead to this week's games also at the end of the podcast, away to AC Milan and at home to St Johnstone. So jam-packed, guys. So let's get right to it. Neil Lennon, big talking point. He's still in the job. First of all, Frank, I see a couple of papers with the Celtic crest with a crack down the middle. Mm-hmm. Are Celtic in crisis, do you think?
I think in crisis. Listen, you can't go. You win 2 games in 4 games. If you win 2 out of 4, you're in a crisis at Celtic. This is just going beyond that, and it's there's something not right. I mean, you can water over it whatever way you want. There's excuses coming out from statements from the training ground and all this kind of nonsense about building a room for players to talk to each other. I mean, we see as a play football, what a lot of nonsense that is, and getting a psychiatrist in or a psychologist, whatever it is, to talk to people. Footballers, if you tell footballers something wrong with them, then they'll believe it. I mean, you don't need somebody to get in their head. Football's easy. I mean, you do the training, and you go in the park, and that's the good stuff, Just go out there and enjoy it. I feel like the players are not enjoying it now. I don't know why they wouldn't want to play for a club, like Celtic. They want to. It's just I don't get it why it's not happening. It's not as if there's any internal problems with them. It's just the fact that it looks like people want away. And you think, well, is there a problem? And there's no any problems with the players. It's just that some of them just don't want to play, I think. And it's my opinion, looking in. And, I would like the players to stop talking in the papers and do it in the park, The fans don't need somebody to come in and say, we care. It hurts us. Well, it doesn't. You should try it. You should look on the park. Because there's no fans, everyone's watching it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you see players not trying. I mean, and they are not trying, Mark. Let's water over this, It's
you think they're not trying?
The basic thing in football for me, if you're having a bad game, you put in a shift and do the hard work. People don't want to do the hard work now.
I believe that. I believe looking at the team, and it's harsh to say, and people say, how can you say that about the players? But the evidence said, Frank's right. I mean, you look at some of the stuff that's going on, some of the goals conceded, some of the lack of effort. There's no other way of putting it. It's alarming.
I mean, and I think Lenny's touched on it himself, the ugly side of the game, just tracking back, tackling, putting effort in. But this is a whole new experience for some of the players there. This last wee spell, 9 games, I think 2 wins. It's real crisis time for Celtic. Real
2
crisis.
wins in 10, it's even worse than that.
Is it 2 wins in 10?
2 wins in 10.
So it's new territory for these guys, but they need to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
And quickly, because we keep touching on it. The league's still retrievable. You've got 3 games against Rangers, you've got 2 games in hand, but they need to start winning quickly.
Aye, there's 25 games still to go, so it needs to turn around. But what do you make about that with Frank? I mean, this thing that came out midweek, that they're building a lounge at Lennoxtown to get the players, interacting a wee bit together. I mean, did the fans buy that? No. Did the fans look at that and go, oh good, that's going to make a difference?
Back in our day, and I hate that kind of back in our day, but it was a dressing room. It was a dressing room. You went out for a bite to eat, a couple of beers, you bonded. That's how you built up relationships.
But they can't do that just now. As Neil at Celtic tried to...
You go in the training ground, it's still a contact sport.
I think it's
you're having a laugh.
I think it's a different environment now, Willow, anyway. Whether we're in COVID or not, I don't think that's the done thing now, you know. And I'm not saying going out all the time, but a camaraderie there. And maybe that's what they're trying to create now, but... It's a big season.
If it's not there, you can't create it.
No.
I mean,
it's a big season for Celtic.
I don't get that.
That should be there. That should be there at the moment already.
Well, it doesn't look like it's there in performances on the pitch, but it said, what do you think? 2-0 defeat, home to Ross County. I mean, a real low point. Lowest point since the Rangers game 2016, the semi-final.
I think so.
There's not been many low moments since that, is there?
I think so. Europe's not been great. The fact that they've had such a good record in the Cups, domestically 35 games or something, without defeat.
Yeah.
It's a big one. Home to Ross County, you're expecting Celtic to win. I expected them to win. And when Ross County go 1-0 up, I don't see Celtic. I don't see where Celtic are going to score, and that's amazing for me to say that. You know, at home against Ross County in the League Cup, it was a shocker at the weekend.
That was the worrying thing, Frank. Yeah. At 1-0 down, and the goal was alarming in itself for me. Just how many mistakes, the lack of effort, even getting back from. Who was involved? Christie, Ilhamed, Beaton, all taking out the game, but they all seemed to then jog back. The only guy I seen running back was Scott Brown, Julian, all over the point. But when they went 1-0 down, apart from a Yeti's shot off a post, you expect a Celtic team to be battering Ross County time and time again. And if they're going to get beat, you come away going, geez, that was unlucky. We hit the bar. The goalie made saves. Mostly O'Hara made a save.
If you've never seen the game and you seen Lenny's interview after it, you'd have thought Celtic battered them. He says we dominated. We never dominated. I mean, this is my biggest problem. They've got three at the back, and the boy Stewart, who nobody's ever heard of. You know, he's not been doing it for Ross County. And he ran amok. Every ball that get cleared for their defence up the park or keeper clearance out the park, he won everything. And he held it. And I'm going, there's 3 against 1. There's something no right, you know. Yep. You know, and then he takes a striker up and put the defender on. I mean, what kind of... You know,
but saying that when you're saying 3 at the back, see when you seen the team line out come out, I mean, I looked at that and I thought, yeah, that's what most fans want. They want probably a bit of physicality.
Yeah.
If you looked at that back line, Ilhamed, Beaton, Julian, Ayer, kind of reverting back to, I don't know, your Martin O'Neill, big, tall defenders, and you've got Rogic and Christie for creativity. You've got 2 strikers. Fans have been crying out for 2 strikers. So what can Neil Lennon do at that situation? He's put the players out there, and it's backfired again.
I think Lenny's trying to get people in. I mean, he's put it in for height. I mean, we're awful
at set pieces again.
I mean, we've spoken about it before in this programme. Who works on them? You're at the other end of the set, you can tell Rangers have worked on the defence. I mean, you just look at that and you go, they've been worked. You know what it's like. If it's going wrong, all my managers before when I played, if something went wrong, you worked at it. And it doesn't matter how productive or unproductive it is, you just work your backside off in the training ground.
My opinion is, I think they have worked on it to a certain extent, but I think the desire of the guys in the positions tell a story.
That's different.
First contact.
You've got to take responsibility for your own job. Do your own job. We've spoken about it before.
Can anyone tell me what they do at corners? What's the marking there? I mean, I'm baffled because it looks to me as if half it's zone, half it's marking.
Half it's zone, half man marking. But
just go and mark him, man, and say that's your man if he's
Have you seen Laxalt at the corner kick? The lead up to the corner kick was alarming for me. He's just like a desire to get back. And then the ball into the box, he's not putting his body in the line. And you could kind of go back in all the set pieces Celtic have conceded and kind of pinpoint somebody who wasn't willing to, put their head in or follow their man.
I thought he's been outstanding. I thought he's been probably one of our best players.
You think so? I've still got question marks about Laxalt. I do.
I think he's come in. He's been told the first couple of games. Mark, he come in and he's a left back, and he come in the first couple of games. He's told to play in midfield basically. And I'm going, well, hold on a minute. He's one of, I would say he's one of the top. That I've seen better than what we've got anyway. That's for sure. And certainly in Scotland, but he likes to tackle. You can see he likes to tackle.
Yeah.
He likes to put his foot in. You know, he doesn't mind doing the dirty stuff. And all of a sudden he's seen nobody else is bothering. Maybe that's why he's there on loan. He's might have saying, hold on a minute, why am I running my, you know?
I mean, the result against Ross County, was that the watershed moment? Was that the moment that you think the manager should go? Are you surprised, Sid, that Neil still got his job just now?
I'm a wee bit, to be honest, and that's no me wanting Lenny to lose his job. I just thought the result of the weekend would result in that. I think, obviously, the scenes at the park the other night weren't great. And it's real crisis time, but they seem to have backed Lenny, going into the game on Thursday. As I say, can it be turned round? Can Lenny turn it round? I think Celtic still have the players there. We keep saying it, but they need to start winning games.
I think there's a problem with the players and the manager. I really do. I think there's a problem with the players and the manager because I says it a couple of weeks ago. I think Lenny's got to sit down. Whoever's his problems, he keeps saying, I've identified it in the changing room. I've identified the problem. Go and sort it. If it's, you're looking, if it's the players that's been on social media and all the hype about Christie want to move and Edward want to move, if that's your players, go and talk to them and say, look, this is a big season. Stay at the end of the season. If you don't like me, fine.
Yeah.
But let's get it done. Get this season done. Start doing the work because these boys used to work. I mean, I'm not going to pick Chrissy, but when he lost the ball, he used to chase it, and it's all went. And it's not just him; it's the rest of the team.
Doesn't look like that now,
they
does
don't get that enthusiasm, that they wanted to play there.
Yeah, no, listen, I you know what? It's just if it's lack of effort, but the one I see shouting at people and moaning is only Scott Brown. I don't really see that for anybody else. But listen, talking about that moaning and shouting at people, a good link into the guy who we've got joining us for Australia, one of the moaniest players I ever played with, Scotty McDonald. Scotty, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, well, thanks very much for that, mate. Talking about
mate, I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm not having a go at you, but no, I think that's what's missing at Celtic. What are you making about the full season, how it's gone?
Look, it's been pretty much a car crash ever since they didn't qualify for the Champions League. And I'll go back to that and I'll pinpoint that as a serious turning point in terms of after the game and in terms of what Neil said in his press conference thereafter. And I felt right there and then that was alarm bells when he turned around and he said, half the players don't want to be here. If that's the case, all fine and well. But you've got, as we all know, there's eyes and ears everywhere. You've got to keep those things in-house. All of a sudden, there's crisis, and the press love it. They're going to get all over it. Anything if there's any cracks in the paper at Celtic Park at the moment, because they've had so much success, they're going to go with it. And Neil gave them the opportunity. And he was more or less calling the players out. And I don't think a lot of those players were ready for that, one, or appreciated it or accepted it. And I feel from that day on, he lost quite a few of them in that change room.
Well, on that, Scotty, then, listen, it's a good point. Who do you think he's actually meaning by that? We've sat here on this podcast for about 5 weeks now discussing that, and the point keeps coming up, and we've said who we think it is. Who do you think he means by it was the ones who didn't want to be there, or who do you think the ones that haven't taken that comment particularly well?
Well, I think the speculation that's been led by the media probably speaks for itself in terms of the bigger players that have had attention created for them. Aya with AC Milan, Edouard probably with big numbers on his price tag, his heads. And look, their heads are going to be turned. How much does winning another title mean to these players? I don't know, only you could ask them. It doesn't mean as much to them as probably what it does to the fans and what 10 in a row does. Probably not as much, but I'm sure they still all care. Of course they do. We've all been there and we know what it's like to play for Celtic and what a big club it is and the pressures that come with that. So I wouldn't question their desire or their commitment. I just feel when you're a player at the club and your manager's sort of pointing the finger at you and leaving it open for this discussion, I don't think it bodes well for you, especially in the change room when you do that. I think you're looking for a bit more, I think like, I'll go back to Brendan Rodgers. I think he done it ever so well, even with the Dembele situation. There was problems. There was loads of things going on in the background with that one. We heard Dembele speak when he left, but how well Rodgers did during that period to keep that all under wraps at Celtic Football Club till he left the club, it speaks highly. And you've got to do those things. You've got to keep putting fires out. You can't ignite them. And I just feel, I go back to that I just feel that was really a turning point for me in the season.
And you mentioned Dembele there. Now, there's been comparisons made between him and Edward. Some people would say Edward's potentially a better player. You're a man that knows that position well. He's had his problems maybe with Neil Lennon, but what do you make of his contribution on the pitch this season? It's been a bit stop-start for him, but he's your main man. What do you make of that, Scotty?
Look, I think the whole him having COVID's not helped Celtic as a front line. I think there's been a heavy reliance on him for a long period. Lee Griffiths, still we don't know if he's going to be ever fully fit and to contribute week in, week out. That's a problem. Yeti looked good at the beginning, started to score goals, but when he was leading the line, his contribution and doing the things that Edouard can do, he can't do. That's obvious when he leads the line on his own. We've seen that. He's probably a front two player rather than a one at time. But even then, he doesn't look comfortable. So it's trying to fit. And then Klimalo, we were all asking, well, okay, Klimalo was signed for decent money, not really contributed. It doesn't look like Neil rates him because he didn't have any strikers and ended up not playing. He only had him and didn't play him. So that tells a story on that in terms of the recruitment. Probably Neil didn't bring him in. So, I mean, there's still all those background things as well that we don't know exactly who's in charge of the recruitment side of it. If Neil's bringing in the players he wants, if he's getting what he wants. But at the end of the day, he's dealt with it previous to now. He was in the job before and that happened for him then. So it's nothing new for Neil, I wouldn't imagine. Going into that situation, he's had to get the best out of these players, but it's I don't like to, like Sid just said there, I don't want Neil to lose his job. We all know Neil really, really well, but at this moment in time, no other team for 50 years, 60 years has lost 4 games on the trot at Celtic Park. So history speaks for itself, doesn't it? When that's the case, you are under extreme pressure to keep your job.
So, Scotty, seeing that then, how deep does the problem go then? I mean, does the blame purely stop with the manager? I think we all know that there's one guy that loses his job, quite more often than not, it's the manager. It's looking likely. But you touched on it there. You kind of go further into it. Head of recruitment, the board are taking some stick just now. Even I'm hearing even things that Gavin Strachan's getting it, Gavin Strachan's laptop's getting it, John Kennedy's getting it. Is it fair that it's just Neil that's taking the brunt of this?
No, of course it's not. But at the end of the day, you are the leader of the club. It's always going to fall on your doorstep. The responsibility, as as a manager, it lies with you, and you're always going to take the brunt of it, no matter what. Yes, your players are responsible. They're letting you down. They're letting the club down because, that's who pay their wages and that's what's asked upon them is their performances. And the fans ask for that of them, no matter who the manager is. But it's not always as easy as that. Well, we've been in periods where you've had managers that you've not necessarily gotten along with or hasn't really got the best out of you. We've all been there. So it's almost looking like that is the case now, and it's needing fresh impetus, fresh voice, fresh ideas, to then ease the burden on the players, take the pressure off them, to then get them playing once again and getting better performances, hence better results, to then improve now and put pressure back on Rangers. Because you're looking at it right now and you're going, 1, maybe bad result, you can get it, 2, finished. You're done, because Rangers are relentless right now and they've been impressive. You have to say, and it's easy to have a go at the recruitment side of it, but with COVID involved as well, it's made things ever so difficult for everyone. I think with Celtic, they've had an unsettled team from the start of the season. Rangers have been so settled in terms of their squad that they have. They're hungry. They've recruited well. On top of that, you could probably ask question marks that the recruitment just hasn't been up to scratch for Celtic. You spend £6 million on a goalkeeper who I think for everyone is questionable that he's up to the standard. He ends up getting dropped and Scott Bain comes back in. So that tells you all you need to know. Your centre-half that you brought in, that you're looking to lead, be one of the biggest leaders in your team, hasn't performed up to the standards. He's not playing now. So really, you're only as good as what you've recruited, and that's simply not been good enough. And that's really, at the end of the day, why Neil is probably in the position that he is in now at Celtic, and his job's really, really on the line.
Yeah. So what happens now? I think you've kind of answered it, but what happens now? Dermot Desmond, has stated that he won't be dictated to by the fans now. I'm pretty sure you keep in touch with all things Celtic. I'm pretty sure you would have seen the scenes outside Celtic Park after the game on Sunday. I mean, that tells a story. Do you think that's incredibly difficult for a manager to keep his job when you see things like that gathering outside Celtic Park? What happens from now on in then?
That usually disappointed me as well, Mark. And I know it's a frustration that's built up because the fans can't get to the game, so I completely understand that. And they're showing their frustration, vent and anger because they can't get into the games to show that, so they've turned up to the stadium. But there's still a way to behave and act, and Celtic fans are better than that, and there's a minority probably putting the majority in a bad way here, which I don't like to see. And for everything that Neil's done, one, as a player, two, as a manager, right, I understand you're upset and you can vent your anger at that, but you need to still at least show the man the respect he deserves. He was the one who began this. Look, in life and in football, things move very quickly and you're quickly forgotten about. We all know that. We've all been part of the game. But at the same time, don't tarnish his name or what he is,
Yeah, he's been involved in, as 8 titles combined.
Yeah.
You think of legends at the club. Now, I know the club have sacked, Billy McNeil in the past. Yeah. Tommy Burns, loved by the fans. But Neil's, along that sort of calibre. I mean, guys, just as Scotty's touching on there, I mean, the scenes outside Celtic Park, you get the frustration, it's turning to anger, but there isn't any place for that.
I think hi Scotty, it's Macca, as Scotty says, it's 1%. That's, to me, I'm all for people, letting you know if you don't like the manager, that's fine. But the abuse, as we all know, he doesn't deserve that. I mean, I think the biggest problem for me was no bringing in his own staff. I think that's a massive problem for him. I say that right at the start.
So here's one for you, just in Scotty, you as well then. So if Lenny gets a sack, do the other two go? Do the full staff go?
Of course they do. Listen, whoever's coming in is going to bring their own staff.
Think so?
Lenny went in knowing that he's looking in and he's working with John and he's working, well, he didn't know about striking. But that's all of a sudden happened and it was wrong. I mean, it was, for me, it's so wrong, especially when they won the 9, he should have said then.
Get his own staff and sit. You agree with that, do you think?
I just think it's, you need somebody.
You have to. We touched on it with Big Johan Mjallby. Was it last week in the show? Yeah. You have to have your own guys there that, especially in a time like this,
you can talk
when
to.
It's difficult, you can go and talk to. And I don't feel he has that with the staff that are there just now.
It's somebody's teammates. It's your teammates. I mean, you blame him for getting sacked at Brecon. You
brought him in, got the bullet. Scotty, what do you think? Do you believe that as well? I know Kendo, a teammate of yours, great guy, great coach, but he's been with several managers. If Neil goes, does John have to follow suit?
No, he doesn't go. Look, there's obviously
he stays.
There's a plan in place for John, and he's worked under several managers, like you said, and I think he's more or less part of the furniture now, and the club believe in John. That's evident, and that's why he's been put in the role and the position that he is in now. Now, if you're asking me if he's going to be the next Celtic manager, I don't believe so at this moment in time. I do believe, though, if everything had went well this year, I still probably see Neil leaving after 10. I didn't think that he could continue thereafter. I didn't know what else there would be, one, for him to achieve, or how far he could take the team thereafter that anyway. Once that was done, the pressure is off, then they can go in a different direction. And I felt then that was probably going to be the time when John was probably going to get the opportunity to take the job. Now, obviously, things are going in a different direction.
Manager's job, Scotty. Do you think John's capable of taking the manager's job at Celtic?
Well, look, I haven't been
That's
in
a big
around.
ask.
look, Frank, I'm not. That's not for me to decide. But what I'm saying is what I see, and where the board are positioning themselves with this, and where they've gone with it. He worked closely with Brendan Rodgers, worked closely with Ronnie Dyler, even more closely to Brendan Rodgers, in fact. And pretty much a lot of the things are still structured in that way and in that manner. So I think...
Scotty, I don't think you're far off with that. I think John has been groomed to be the next Celtic manager. However, I don't know how that plan works when you get a crisis like this, because remember, for these 9 years, everything has went well and rosy, and it's great having that progression, and then John would have taken over maybe. But when a crisis hits like this and the manager gets sacked, I don't know if the Celtic fans would take...
I'm not saying John can't be Celtic manager, but as his first job, no. I think he's got to go away. I thought he should have went and took Hibs when he get a chance of going to Hibs. I thought he should have went. I'm not saying he's not going to be further down the line, Celtic manager, but I think to go in as your first job, no.
Yeah.
No,
it's a big ask. Look, on to the players, Scotty. I mean, you mentioned a few there. Let's just paint the picture. Who should take the blame most out of this? Out of the players, not individually. Who we saying that who haven't performed, Sid?
I think you have to look to your big players. Edward this season's been off it. He's had his injuries, but when you're looking for guys to lead, I mean, you look at the way he took his goal against Sparta the other night. It's there with the boy. But for whatever reason, he's not hit the heights this year. Whether his head's been turned by a move, we don't know. But I'm quite old-fashioned that way. If you're looking for a move, surely you keep doing it on the pitch, because any employers out there, if you spit the dummy or if you don't want to perform, that's seen in your character as well. So I think you've always got to perform. But again, as Scotty touched on there, the COVID situation with him, but he certainly has not been at the levels of last year.
Yeah.
Or at the turn of the year that, with him and Griffiths up top.
Any others big disappointments?
I think there's something all right. I mean, I look at, we've all played football. I mean, Scotty's an out-and-out striker. I played with out-and-out strikers. I was never an out-and-out. But see, when my teammates scored, I was delighted for them. And I look at, you're talking about Edward scoring, I look at Edward when he scored that goal. Christie was the nearest one to him, and if they're looking at his face, and I'm thinking, that's not right. No, that's just because he was in camera. I didn't see all the rest of them. So if they're not happy, then that's not a team spirit. Do you know what I mean?
Dynamics, not right.
It's just unfortunate for Ryan. He was in the picture, and he looked like, he just...
Scotty, what about you? January's approaching fast. Any that should be moved on, you think, to make way for possibly other ones coming in?
I find it very difficult to think that any will get the opportunity to move on now, Mark. I really do, because of the performances in themselves. Like, Celtic are probably going to have to take less money for them, and knowing what's gone on previously, they won't be willing to do so. They'll be looking to try and sell at high price. So they'll hold on to their assets till such a time that they believe, because they will believe, that they can turn it around and these players will start performing again. So I can't see really any of the assets types of players leaving. There will have to be one or two. Who they are, I don't know. And it's going to be very difficult to get them out the door because, again, the COVID situation, who's got the money and the finance to go and buy players and then give them the wages probably necessary that they're on. So I think, for me, one player that's been a huge miss for them, obviously, has been Julian. I know he's just come back and his performances have been questionable here and there, but he's come into a team that's not full of confidence and underperforming. But he's been a big miss, ever since probably the Old Firm game as well, especially, not being there. I think they've really, missed his leadership at the back. And I don't think that's helped some of the others that have been playing at the back in performance-wise. And I think sometimes as well that Celtic have really lacked width within their style of play this season, which is...
James Forrest's been a huge miss.
Yep. I actually thought that's who you were going to say, Scott. I think James Forrest, again, sometimes isn't regarded as a favourite, but he's been an important player.
Can he argue with his numbers?
His numbers is incredible.
He holds up with. They're playing.
Committing players, creating space for others, going by people.
Lennon, You know,
I think he's been a huge
together,
miss.
they come in the park, don't they? They don't go out.
Yeah.
The two of them come in. You know, like Ryan comes in, his left foot. Ellen comes in. Yeah. And there's no width. I mean, the other night I was crying out. They did a back five and a four. You've got to go by them and get the ball in the box, and then let your strikers take a chance on it. I mean, I was a striker. Scott was a striker. You love that ball come flying in the box. You've got a chance. You get a yard in front of you.
And that's the difference for me between Celtic and Rangers, and we're always going to draw comparisons. Yeah. When that ball goes wide to Tavernier and Barisic, Rangers strikers know it's coming in the box. Ajeti, Scotty reminds me a wee bit of you, but Scotty gave so much more out the box, but at least you knew the ball was coming in the box.
6 asides.
I think I gave you about 54 assists for your 60 odd goals. No, look, I'll be interesting, Scotty, come January as well. But look, thanks for joining us. Just before you go, Scotty, what are you up to yourself now?
Well, pre-season number 22. Who would have believed that? I'd still be playing Willow. But
especially after playing with us at the Sixes.
I know.
Retired and then came out of retirement.
It's all right. Lenny's coming in next.
Yeah.
So where are you just now?
Obviously, I'm in the Gold Coast, beautiful, sunny, near Surfers Paradise, mate. So 30 degrees every day. Pre-season's been, tough as usual. We're starting at 8 o'clock in the morning because it's too hot to train, in the earlier hours.
Too hot to train. Too hot to train.
That sounds nice, mate.
Polar bears here.
Sounds nice. Well, listen, all the best in pre-season, mate. I know you love the running.
Nice glass of wine. Yeah, it's been tough.
Oh, shut up, Scott. Yeah.
We start on the 29th of December. So it's not great timing, but looking forward to it, Willow. And, on we go for another season. So looking forward to it.
Brilliant, mate. Wish you all the best. Good chatting to you again. Hopefully speak to you soon, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, Scotty.
Cheers, Scotty, boy.
Brilliant, Scotty. Great player to play with. And when I say it, he reminded me of him, but Scotty, I looked a lot better.
Dark hair.
Aye, I know. But look, a lot of chat about Neil Lennon and his job.
Yes.
Look, one guy that's getting mentioned just now is Martin O'Neill. And we had a wee glimpse of him on Friday night, Sid, on our live show, which was great. Let's cut to him just now and see what Martin O'Neill thinks of Neil Lennon.
Yeah. I was asked a couple of weeks ago to talk about Neil, and find out. There's, like everything else, Mark. There's always a bit of flack flying around at different stages. I mean, it's on a. I was nearly going to say it's on a daily basis. It's probably on an hourly basis up there. But yourself, you're managing a big side. First of all, Neil Lennon was an incredibly successful player at the football club. Then he went on to manage unbelievably successfully. And then his second spell, he came in at a very, very difficult time. He took over that there and has kept it going. My genuine belief is that that there would have been very, very few people able to do that. And Neil Lennon was one of that. And so in a week where people are talking about, I didn't play so well against Rangers, which can happen. I lose to AC Milan during the course of the week. I know the AC Milan that particular week were top of the Italian league. No bad thing. And Aberdeen away from home, a 3-3 draw when probably they could have won the game. Aberdeen, I always found, was a difficult place to go. Pittodrie, very, very difficult. So just wait. Teams will go through these little spells, and you can go from searing self-confidence to asking questions about yourself, not just the course of a season, but really in the course of a week. So all told, I think just settle down. Neil Lennon has been used to winning football matches for a long period of time, both as a player and as a manager, and I'm sure he will see that through.
Well, he's sure he'll see it through. Martin O'Neill there, touching about there's always flack at the club. Mm-hmm. No, I've not seen flack like Sunday. No. And he was saying there about wee spells in the week that Neil Lennon had. But the problem is when you get, a result 2-4-1 defeats for Sparta Prague, followed by Ross County, that's a particularly hard week.
Is it? And I said that last week on the show. Results will dictate the future for Lenny. and we're 2 games further down the line. It's another 2 defeats, bad defeats, particularly the League Cup one. But Martin speaks a lot of sense here as well. You know, things can change quite quickly. At the moment, there's a severe lack of confidence and belief through that team and their performances, and you see it against Sparta. They got off to a great start, a little setback, and all of a sudden the confidence goes again, and it's another 4-1. At the weekend, for me, just flat. You know, nothing, as Marcus says there, nothing round the sides, no really forcing Ross County into defending their box. Everything was in front of them, quite safe, and you know, you expect more from Celtic at home, going 1-0 down against teams, going batter them and create chance after chance, and that just didn't happen at the weekend.
The biggest thing is you got to stop letting in goals. You stop that. You've got to get the defence sorted. There's enough players.
Particularly now, when the confidence is
front.
fragile. You know, you get ahead the other night, and then the first goal, I think Aya lets it come across.
Yeah.
And they're probably guilty of thinking, oh, here we go again. You know, we've conceded another one, and then suddenly you're 2-1 down, and the game's running away for you again. And it's hard to get out of that rut at the moment. I think the boys are really struggling to get out of that rut.
Yeah.
So Scotty said it there. I mean, he clearly likes Neil Lennon. He got on well with him, but sometimes maybe just needs a change. And the dreaded sign for any manager when they're in a job is the old bookies odds coming up, and listen, managers read papers and read social media as well. Just on that, I mean, Martin O'Neill there, we've seen Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane, front runners, probably Martin O'Neill and Gordon Strachan. Let's touch on a couple of names. Martin O'Neill, Roy Keane, Henrik Larsson's been mentioned, Eddie Howe's been mentioned, Gordon Strachan. I see Jack Ross is getting a mention. Let's go through a couple of them. So Martin O'Neill, what would you think?
Martin O'Neill and Strachan have turned it down. Yeah.
They've turned it down.
So I heard.
And they don't
want it, but they've not turned it down. They've basically come out and said they don't want it.
They don't want it. Why wouldn't they want it?
I don't know, but one thing for sure, they wouldn't come in on their own. They'll come in with somebody else.
Yeah.
There'll be no decent manager. I mean, no disrespect to him. He should get somebody in now. Even now, if he's staying in the job, get somebody in. I don't know who, but somebody like John Hartson, it's his teammate. They keep talking about him. He's done all his badges. He's going to be addressed. He can go into the dressing room and talk to the players.
Are we beyond that though, Sid?
I think so, but what I'm saying is that if he's going to stay,
if he's going to stay. But what about
I get what Mark is saying there, you know, but the AC Milan away on Thursday, a difficult game now next week. Teams are smelling blood against Celtic at the moment. St Johnstone are on a good run. I mean, that's a huge game at the weekend.
But talking about defensively then, if the job did come up and Neil did lose his job, would Martin O'Neill defensively come in and sort things out, and wave a magic wand and everything be fixed?
No.
I don't think it'd be a magic wand, but
would they get the reaction?
Well, Scotty says there about a freshness about the place. Maybe that's the only thing. I've been at clubs where somebody's out the door. David Hay lost his job at Dunfermline. You either agree or disagree with it. Jim Leishman came in and we won 5-0 at the weekend. Was that Jim solely down to Jim, or was it something with the players subconsciously? You don't know. You see that happening time and time again. But
the biggest problem is there was the other night there after the game they were talking about it and they were saying what would Martin be like in the dressing room. Martin would have it off his head. Well, that can't happen at players now. You can't shout players.
Roy Keane.
Can you imagine?
Here's the thing.
It wouldn't happen.
I agree with you, right? But was there something the other night that whatever happens now has to appease the fans? So we're looking at now. I think we'd all agree that Jack Ross looks a fantastic coach and he speaks very well, and he's probably got a bigger future ahead of him than Hibs.
Yeah,
he's been mentioned with the Celtic job. That wouldn't. Would that appease the fans? Did the fans need some sort of big name to go?
I don't know
yes,
if he's appease the fans, but he's a young guy. He's coming to. Lenny's been about. See, Lenny's old school for me, and we all absolutely love him, and I think he's a good manager. But he's just sometimes the players today, every generation is getting worse. You know, you can't shout at them, you can't talk to them. You know, you talk to them, and say, look, I loved it when somebody shouted at me because you go in the second half and prove them wrong. Mm-hmm. They don't do that. They go into the cell now.
Yeah,
and it's
see when you're talking about
that,
a name on the list there, people keep mentioning Eddie Howe. Now, reportedly, that's what Eddie Howe is like. Very soft, he knows how to manage young players. Yeah. But in that context, it's almost like a project. Would a manager like Eddie Howe come in and take it at the start of December with 10 in a row in the balance, 25 league games to go? He's surely a Brendan Rodgers coming in the summer.
I know what you're saying, but if somebody like him come in, the players would adjust to him more than.
You think so? A Martin O'Neill or Roy Keane?
Yeah,
you think so?
They're going to go into the shell when Roy starts shouting. You know, it's not going to be.
Well, maybe the fear factor there would. I know with Gordon Strachan, there was a fear factor there for me for letting them down.
To the players
I know. Another one, Henrik Larsson. I mean, we heard from him on Friday night. Would he come from the sunnier climates of Barca and Messi?
I don't think Henrik would come to this situation, this current situation. He's got a great job at Barcelona. He's just into coaching. I put his name forward before Lenny when Rodgers left, purely from just it would capture everybody's imagination. Henrik coming back to the club. I think he's got the experience. People said a lack of experience at management level, but he's worked with some of the best. But I just don't see Henrik putting himself in this position at the moment.
It's his legacy on the line.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we're chatting about other managers.
Yeah,
it's 20-1 here on Tuesday. Neil's still in the job.
Yeah. I think it's a shame, but I think he's going. I go back to it. I've been saying since Neil took the job, he needs his own men in. And
I think everybody feels for him because his interview after the game on Sunday, I really did feel for him.
I felt for him
because you can see he's giving his all. Proper Celtic man through and through. And he can take. It's just not working.
He can take
on
the
the
flack.
pitch.
I mean, you know, Lenny can take.
Of course he
can. But not that kind of abuse.
Yeah.
You know, it's like to assault his, the abuse on his family, and he doesn't need that.
No. All right. Well, it's going to be an interesting couple of days. That leads us on to our next point. Couple of days. AC Milan and St Johnstone. A nice, easy fixture come off the Ross County. Thursday night, and it's the same question as every week. Is it important?
It's important in the sense that they go and get a performance. The big one for me now is the weekend, the league game against St Johnstone. It's important not to go to San Siro and get a doing. Go and get a performance, get a reaction, and build some sort of confidence into this domestic campaign almost immediately.
Yeah, Frank, they're joint top of Serie A. I mean, is there a danger of going there and taking an absolute doing?
Yeah,
and then
I think there is a danger.
It's compounded even further.
And do you know what? When I looked at the players leaving the ground the other night and an escort and all that, you were getting escorted. I'm thinking, is that going to do them any good when they're going to the park?
Definitely
I think it's if they don't want to manage it, shout at them. So I'm thinking the ones that were there at Celtic Park the other night, I don't think they've done the players any favours. I get they're annoyed, but there's a time and a place, and I think that might be. I think they might be still on them shell-shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to say now, I said at the beginning of the season that Edward didn't look interested. He went out and he scored 3. Yeah. So I'm going to say he doesn't look interested again.
Well, moving forward, you mentioned that there, Sid, the game against St Johnstone on Sunday, they've not been beaten in their last 10 games, undefeated in their last 10 games. Now, if we thought Ross County would be a shoe-in, St Johnstone look a better outfit than Ross County.
Yep.
Now, there was reports, fans outside the ground on the way in for the players come Sunday there against Ross County.
Yeah.
I mean, if Neil's still on the job come then, you'd imagine those numbers may be greater. And that just puts the pressure on further, does it not?
Of course it does. But listen, Neil knows that. He's going to, as he says, he'll get up in the morning and wash his face and start again. He believes in what he does. It's not working at the moment. It's definitely not working. I think he put out a system the other day there because he thought they would score a few against Ross County. I really do. And it didn't happen because the defence was all over the place,
So where does it go, Sid? For that game against St Johnstone, surely they'll come, nothing to fear. You know what it's like when you're playing relaxed. You often play better, don't you? So they'll be dangerous. Does Neil go with, if he's still on the job, does he go with similar, like Frank says? 2 strikers, 2 attack midfielders?
I would go for the jugular at Celtic Park at home. Is Griffiths, what's the situation with Griffiths at the moment, do we know?
Did he have a knee injury that kept him out on Sunday? But he always seems to have these mysterious injuries that keep him out for one game, and then he's back in this game. I don't really know. But Frank, if Celtic don't win on Sunday, is the league over? Is it done?
I think so. I think one game, they lose another 2 games. If they lose 2 games between any time between now and
January the 2nd.
Well, even January the 2nd, I think they can't afford to now lose 2 games.
You look at the fixtures between now and January the 2nd, Milan, St Johnstone, Leo, okay, take that away. But Kelly at home, Hearts and Scottish Cup final, Ross County, Hamilton and Dundee United, all before Rangers.
I think forget about Europe. I think they've got to prepare the boys. You know, I think there might be a weekend team.
There's a challenge. They have to win.
See, all of them, apart from the Europe.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
Every one of them. The cup final.
Do you think you'll play a weekend team on Thursday? Because I
don't know, because I don't know if they can afford another embarrassing result.
I think the fans.
What has a weekend team though? What has a weekend team? Celtics. I mean, a weekend team just now, or a strong team just now, isn't getting the results.
Team, you know, the boys that are not getting in. You know, I think Mickey Johnson's on his way back as well, wasn't he? I mean, I'm not saying he's the answer, but you know what I mean.
He has missed.
At least he can go by. He's got pace. He can go by players.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
they have to win all those games.
Yeah.
The AC Milan games, building confidence, saving face. Even it's remarkable we're saying that, you know, in Europe, but it's to get through that without any more embarrassing result and get into St Johnstone game at the weekend.
It's not a place you want to go to save face, is it? AC Milan, Top Serie A, San Siro. But that's
47 years of age.
Exactly. That's where they find ourselves now. But gives your predictions then, Sid. Firstly, game on Thursday. What do you think?
I think they'll get beat. I think.
You just team that no scoreline.
I'll go with that. AC Milan will win the game, but if we can get something out of it in terms of performance, and again, I find myself saying this just now, but it's the situation Celtic are in. Get some sort of confidence for that game going into the game at the weekend. You need to win the game at the weekend.
The longer they keep a clean sheet against AC Milan, the better the confidence will grow.
Yeah. All right, Frank, you agree? Beat Thursday? Sunday, big one.
I think Celtic will win.
I would have been homeless if I'd have put money, if I was a gambler, put money, because I thought they'd have beaten Ross County.
I know,
so,
I think they all did.
You know, I think that they've got to listen. The players now have to sit back with their families and have a look at what's going on around about them. It's not just about their wee bubble. The Celtic Football Club is huge, and they need to say, look, we need to put more. I'm a great believer, same as you. When it's going wrong, just do the graft, do the work, do the hard work, and things will come for you. I mean, it's some of the oldest managers, the best managers in the world have said that. You know, do the dirty side of the work, and the other side, the silky stuff will come with it.
Yeah, sometimes lifts your teammates run about you. You see,
I know
the guy beside you working his socks off, lifts you, and Lenny's touched on it. It's the dirty side of the game. You know, a bit of graft, but it's a massive game at the weekend.
It's got to be a siege mentality now in that dressing room. If it wasn't before, but it really does.
I think they'll win it at the weekend. I think they'll go in. I think they'll beat St Johnstone. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's us, guys. Thanks very much again. Just before we go, Sid's birthday today. Happy birthday, mate.
Cheers, guys.
Nearly got off air without saying happy birthday to you. What age?
Don't mention my age. 46.
I got your cake, but I had it in the way in.
Well, that's us. Thanks very much again for joining us, listeners. Thanks to Scotty McDonald, Simon Donnelly, Frank McAvenny. Thanks to our sponsors, First Star Legends Gin and First Class Transfers and Social Recluse. First Class Transfers. Says here, travelling style. A nice Frank McAvenny gin.
Yeah, why not?
Does that come with the hiring of the vehicle?
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Well, only one way to find out. What about Macca? Phone them up and book. But thanks very much for joining us. Speak to you again next week.